and welcome to Let's Play Modded Skyrim Part 11. In the last part we had cleared out the Evershard mine, so there's no more bandits left, and all they've done is left this rather nice forge for us. But we can't really forge anything here, there's only a couple of pieces of iron and we're not very interested in making any iron goods currently. These bandits I noticed were orcs and there were dark elves as well, which is quite a clever way of Bethesda doing it. Because Skyrim is the land of the Nords and orcs are essentially homeless after their home state or city of Orsinium was burnt to the ground. Morrowind was the old home of the dark elves, but of course the volcano erupted and covered the land in ash, so that's uninhabitable. So you have refugees coming from both lands, and obviously there's no jobs, and when there are no jobs you just turn to banditry. Or, as the guys in this mine were doing, mining and making a living smithing, and I just decided to come along and kill them. I'm just going to try something here, because I have some empty bottles that I hopefully will fill with water. This water looks quite fresh, but yeah, I just clicked on the empty bottle and I filled it full of river water. Nice animation of him ducking down and filling his bottle of water. So now I have something to drink rather than pure alcohol. But yes, going back to what I mentioned about refugees coming to Skyrim, that's also a very interesting part of the lore. The story behind the orcs isn't so well covered, but the story behind the dark elves is well covered. It's covered in the game Morrowind, and there was also a novel based in Morrowind as well. And there's tons of snippets of lore about dark elves escaping Morrowind. In case you were unaware though, the dark elves in Skyrim Elder Scrolls universe aren't the same kind of dark elves that you find in Advanced Dungeons and Dragons or other fantasy games. The dark elves are actually an offshoot of the high elves, that is the elves from Somerset Isle. So they were actually the same as the yellow skinned tall elves that you see, same as the Thalmor, except many years ago they decided to go on an exodus away from the Somerset Isles, and they ended up going to Morrowind. It's said in the lore that they were influenced to go there by Bothia, who's the Daedric Prince of Plots. And over time, over this mass exodus, their entire culture started to be different from the High Elves. So we'll just make our way back to Riverwood, and I'll talk a bit more about the Dark Elves. So the Dark Elves changed their names over time to the Velothi, and they ended up going to Morrowind, which at the time was occupied by the Dwemer, or the Deep Elves, or so-called dwarves. They were the guys who built all the Dwemer artifacts and build the Dwemer centurions and those metal cities. But there didn't seem to be much of a problem with the Velothi or the Dark Elves settling there. So the civilization of Velothi settled as far away from the High Elves as possible. If you've played Morrowind before, you'll probably remember these towers noted as the Velothi Towers, where Talavani mages were, and these were the dwellings that the original Velothi settled into. After a time though, their culture broke down into a tribal culture, which is where the Ashlanders came from. The Ashlanders being nomadic Velothi. I think I'll go into Riverwood Trader and just get rid of a few of my things first. I'm almost fully loaded, so I need to get rid of all my gems. Steel weapons that I've picked up, circlets and the magic items, they'll all go. and I'll swap them all for weightless gold. I don't actually have too much of a haul of gold from going into that mine, around about 500 or 600 gold, but that's plenty to buy the equipment that I need anyway. I can't really think of anything that I'll need right now. At some point, of course, I'll need to upgrade my armor into something better. The weapons I've got right now, I'm going to find nothing better unless I buy myself an orcish weapon or a glass weapon from somewhere, but there's not going to be one in Riverwood that I can take. I'll have to head over to one of the major cities to get that. I do remember I also picked up a couple of decent items while I was in the mine. One of them was a yellow Staff of Fury weapon. That's worth quite a lot of gold, but that could come in handy. The Staff of Fury, what that does, it makes all your opponents fight against each other, but it only works up to low level, so only up to level 4. So only if I was fighting against bandits would that really help me. But while I'm sorting out all the rest of my goods, I'll just go on to talk about the Dark Elves, who used to be called the Velothi. So in some point during the past, you have the Velothi scattered into tribes all around Morrowind, living somewhat in peaceful coexistence with the Dwemer that were there. And these Velothi, they had a religion where they worshipped ancestors, and their longest ancestor were the Daedra, so they were essentially Daedric worshippers, and they worshipped the good Daedra, and that includes Azura as one of the main Daedra that they worshipped. They also respected the bad Daedra as well. I think I'll dump all my stuff into Gerda's chest actually. So I'll just go out of this shop and back into the house, and I'll just dump all my stuff away. So I'm back in the house, and I get to say hello to this guy again. I noticed that some of the food has reappeared again, which is really great. This chest doesn't have anything spawning, so it's safe to put everything in there, I think. What's especially going to be good to go in there is all that paper. So while I'm dumping all my stuff away, the Velothi then were Daedric worshipping elves that were absolutely fine with the Dwemer, but then again there was always going to be some sort of disagreement between them because their religions and beliefs were so different. At some point in the past, the Nords, who had ruled Skyrim for a while, decided to invade Morrowind, and that became a part of the Nordic Empire for a while. During a period of infighting between the Nords, the Dwemer and the Velothi teamed together and decided to try and kick the Nords out if they could. This was around the time where the Velothi was ruled by the Great Houses, these Great Houses being Indoril, Redoran, Telvanni, Hlalu. The most influential house at the time was Indoril, and the chief of the Great House was Nerevar, had difficulty saying that one, and his 3 advisors were Sothasil, Vivek, and Alma Alexia. If you've played Morrowind before, you'll definitely recognise all these names, because they are the essential reason why you had the story behind Morrowind. Anyway, just looking at this scroll book, it just tells you you need silver dust, a roll of paper, and you need to have learnt the appropriate spell. You can craft scrolls. Going back to Nerevar, he decided to team up first of all with the Dwemer, and he managed to kick out the Nords. But then afterwards he found that the Dwemer were trying to build something that would actually turn them into gods. So then that started a war between the Velothi and the Dwemer. Now there's a whole load of lore between what happened next, but what happened was the Dwemer were defeated, but no one knows exactly how or why, although there's a little bit of lore about it. And Nerevar decided to go into the capital of the Dwemer city, which was in Red Mountain, and there they found the Heart of Lorkran, which was a heart of effectively one of the original gods, which was a source of massive power. Nerevar didn't know what to do with it, so he left it in charge with one of his generals called Dagoth, and then the history becomes very muddled. Dagoth becomes corrupted by the heart and starts turning evil, and somehow Nerevar is mortally wounded, and his 3 advisors manage to take charge of the heart for themselves. Supposedly there was some betrayal in that, although that's disputed, and because of this betrayal, the Daedra Azura decided to curse all the Velothi with dark skin and red eyes, so from then on all the Velothi were called Dark Elves after their skin tone. But that whole story is covered in Morrowind, and it's a very interesting story as well. What I'm just going to try and do now is I'm going to buy enough leather so I can make a large bandolier for myself, so I can improve my encumbrance even more, because the next quest I'll be intending on going on is to head all the way over to Bleak Falls Barrow. What you need to make these bandoliers is 6 loads of leather, 6 loads of leather strips, and you need 2 assorted buckles as well, and you make those assorted buckles from steel ingots. Iron, for some reason, it doesn't work. I also get the option to make a black leather if I wanted to use up my frostbite venom, but I quite like the brown leather look of it. I don't want my thief to be super fashionable. This kind of worn look I think is the best look to have. Yes, but after the events of Red Mountain, where the 3 advisors took control of the Heart of Lorkran, they made themselves effectively into gods, which was quite a good thing, because one of the advisors called Vivek, he did loads of great things for the Dark Elves. One of the things he did, he stopped a meteor crashing into the earth, and he suspended it over the city of Vivek, and that meteor became the Hall of Justice, and he suspended it above the city with his magic, with that magic being derived from the Heart of Lorkran. If I'm mispronouncing anything, then I sincerely apologise. It might irritate a few people. I know I'd be irritated if someone was consistently mispronouncing the names. But what you ended up with this populated city in Morrowind with a suspended meteor above the city, which is a recipe for disaster. I don't know why he didn't decide to bring it round down onto the ground, but there wouldn't be so much fun then. In the game of Morrowind, of course, you end up destroying the heart, so destroying all the magic that's surrounding Vivek, so he doesn't have any decent magic anymore. So what happens to this massive meteor that's hanging above the city? In Oblivion, of course, Vivek's fate is sealed. Apparently he's captured by the Daedra, so there definitely isn't any magic holding up that meteor anymore. And when that meteor decides to come down, it crashes down into Morrowind and makes Red Mountain, the mountain or volcano in the middle of Morrowind, erupt again, and the whole land is covered in ash. I'm just gonna try on the bandolier that I made. It increases my encumbrance by 75 points, so I should have a 125 point bonus to what I had. Looks quite cool as well. I know what I'll do for the blacksmith. Since he decided to let me use his forge, I will steal his steel ingots again and make myself a treat. I'll probably make myself some assorted buckles for the next time. They're a bit more useful than steel ingots to me at the moment. Perhaps I'll make myself another bag. Anyway, we're fully equipped for the next episode, which will be coming up soon, so I hope you enjoyed this one, and I'll see you next time for more Let's Play Modded Skyrim.